we salute Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for his courage, his foresight, and endurance. I, as an attorney and as a county commissioner, like many others, stand on his shoulders, and we are empowered to make a difference.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand to your feet and put your hands together for the presentation for tonight, Martin and Music.
Good evening and greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gerald C. Rivers.
And my name is Charles Holt.
And this is Martin and Music. Now, some of you may be asking, why Martin and Music? What is the significance of these two together? Why this and why now? King put it this way: now is the time to lift our nation and our world. The title of King's biography is Let the Trumpet Sound, making a clear connection between whole tones and open notes and the response of the human heart to love and to expand.
Music brings us together.
King's words move us to action.
Music gives us a tapestry of memories.
King's message transcends time and space.
And music transcends our mind and runs straight to our hearts.
And once there, King's teachings remind us to love. Too often, we forget that the music was the soundtrack of the movement. Songs like Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around were sung by students in jails and others as they would begin to sing, and it would literally lift the way they felt.
Music was the movement. I can remember growing up in a small community called Lake Providence, and my grandmother, who was born in 1901, would tell me stories about how they used to all chime in and start singing these songs in the church, in the Black Baptist church, where sometimes they did not have carpet on the floor but just had the wood. So you just tap your foot and you would sing the songs of the movement, knowing that if you weren't there physically, you were there in spirit.
And not just here, but all around the world. In Africa, in Asia, in Europe, music moved people. It changed them. I can see Dr. King now as he was in the pulpit, and he would begin to hear one of his favorite songs, and it would literally transport him and take him to a place where he knew that all things were possible, regardless of the situation or the circumstances.
Music was the movement and the message was in the music. Being born and raised in the South, I knew that there could not be one without the other. That if you had a story to tell, then a song would follow. Or if you were ready to sing a song, then you would tell how you got over.
And music was an important part of King's life. Dr. King's mother was killed in church while playing the piano on Sunday morning. The Atlanta Journal and Constitution had a headline that read, "Mother King dies at the piano." Little more was ever said about that.
But you can't stop the music, and you can't stop the music. The movement and the music, they live inside of us. So what would King give us charge to today?
The music was the impetus for the movement.
I shall not be moved. I shall not shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the waters. I shall not be moved.
One day, after finishing school, I was called to a little church down in Montgomery, Alabama. Things were going well there. It was a marvelous experience. But I never will forget one day, about a year later, a lady by the name of Rosa Parks decided that she wasn't going to take it any longer. She stayed in a bus seat. Now, you may not remember because it was way back now, but it was the beginning of a movement. 50,000 black men and women refused absolutely to ride the city buses, and we walked together for 381 days. And then they asked me to be the president and the spokesperson. The new organization, the Montgomery Improvement Association, which came into being to lead the boycott. And I couldn't say no. And then we started our struggle together. And things were going well for the first few days, but then about 10 or 15 days later, when the white folks in Montgomery knew that we meant business, they started doing some nasty things. They started making nasty telephone calls, and it got to the point where some days more than 40 telephone calls would come in, threatening my life, the life of my children. Well, I took it for a while in a strong manner. Never will forget one night. It was around midnight. And you know you can have some strange experiences at midnight. I had just come in and wanted to crawl into bed so that I could get up the next morning and try to keep things going. I crawled into bed, my wife was over there asleep, and immediately the telephone started ringing. I picked it up. On the other end, it was an ugly voice. And that voice said to me in substance, "Nigger, we're tired of you and your mess now. And if you aren't out of this town in 3 days, we're going to blow your brains out and blow up your house." And I'd heard these things before, but for some reason it got to me that night. I tried to roll over and go to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. I was frustrated, bewildered. I got up and went back to the kitchen and started warming some coffee, thinking that coffee would give me a little relief. And I thought about many things. I pulled back on the philosophy and the theology that I just studied at the universities and tried to give theological and physiological reasons for the reality and the existence of sin and evil. But the answer didn't quite come there. I thought about beautiful little daughter who was born about a month earlier. We only had one child then, but we have 4 now, but she was the darling of my life. I used to come in night after night and see that little gentle smile. Thought about the fact that she could be taken away from me at any minute. I thought about a dedicated, devoted, loving, loyal wife who was over there asleep. She could be taken from me, or I could be taken from her, and it got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I was weak. I found myself saying, there's an inner voice. And I could hear a voice saying, you can't call on Daddy now. He's up there in Atlanta, 175 miles away. You can't even call on Mama now. You got to call on that something, that power that your daddy used to tell you about. That power power that can make a way out of no way. And I sat over that cup of coffee. Never will forget it. I prayed a prayer, and I prayed out loud that night. I said, Lord, I'm down here trying to do what's right. I think I'm right. I think the cause that we represent is right. But I must confess now, I'm weak now, I'm faltering, I'm losing my courage. Seems at that moment, I could hear an inner voice saying, Martin Luther, stand up for righteousness, stand up for justice, stand up for peace, stand up for love, and know I will be with you even until the end of the world. I tell you, I seen the lightning flash, and I heard the thunder roll. I felt sin breakers dashing, trying to conquer my soul, but I heard the voice of Jesus say, still to fight on. He promised never to leave me alone. No, never alone. He promised never to leave me alone. You know, sometimes I feel discouraged. I don't mind telling this morning that sometimes I feel discouraged. I felt discouraged in Chicago. As I moved through Georgia and South Carolina and Mississippi, I feel discouraged sometimes. Living every day under the threat of death, I feel discouraged sometimes. Living every day under extensive criticism, even from Negroes, I feel discouraged sometimes. Feel my works in vain. But then the Holy Spirit revives my soul again. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There's a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. God bless you.
There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. If you can't preach like Peter, if you can't pray like Paul, then you can tell everybody that Jesus loves them more. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. If you can't preach like Peter, if you can't pray like Paul, then you can tell everybody that Jesus, he loves them all. Hey, there's a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul.
Do you see how the music makes you feel? Do you feel how the music makes you see?
Good, doesn't it? All of that which we have been through, Martin echoes in the songs, in the message. It's all here, still here right now.
That music is powerful and can transform the way you feel in the twinkling of an eye. Now, I can remember growing up in Compton in the Missionary Baptist Church. And I remember when those deacons would be down on the front row and they would start to sing something that I knew was English, but it didn't quite sound that way. And I'll never forget Deacon Thomas. He would sing a song and you would watch him transform before your very eyes. And it sounded something like this. I love the Lord, he heard my cry.
Well, I was born and raised in the Missionary Baptist Church too, but I jumped over to Apostolic Pentecostal. And you know, everything in the Pentecostal church is just a little faster. Now, we would have noonday every day, almost, praise and worship and testimony. And every Sunday night, Bishop would call for anyone who had a testimony. The first one up every time was Sister Gardner, Sister Charity Gardner. Come on down and give your testimony. She would walk down and she'd say, praise the Lord, saints.
Praise the Lord.
God have been good to me. But before I give my testimony, there's a little song that I want to sing. God is a good God. Yes, he is. I said, God is a good God. Yes, he is. I said, God is a good God. Yes, he is. I said, God is so good to me.
Some of that music took me back to junior high school. We would have parties in the basement with a blue light, and we would be listening to LPs. Now, some of y'all out here know what I'm talking about. It was before they had the CD, they had the LP.
And no matter where you were in the South, if you had blues, you had to have a little bit of jazz. It was all mixed in there. The only time that I could sit on the porch with my daddy and listen to blues and jazz was on Sundays. And his only prerequisite was that you don't talk, because I got to listen to my music. My father wasn't an emotional person, but every now and then I would look over and I would see him tilt his head back. And I'd hear something like this. I was born by the river in a little old tent. And just like that river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it is.
The The music was monumental to the movement that King led. When their heads were bowed, when they were tired and exhausted or jailed, someone would start to sing or just moan and hum, and it would change the way that everybody felt. There was one woman in particular that he talked about, Sister Pollard. He said she would describe this way with her ungrammatical profundity. They said while she was walking during the bus boycott, somebody stopped and asked her if she wanted a ride. And when she said no, the person said, "Well, aren't you tired?" And with her ungrammatical profundity, she said, "My feet is tired, but my soul is rested."
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the King's Highway. Say I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the King's Highway.
There's a little song that we sang in our movement down in the South. I don't know if you've heard it, but it has become the theme song. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome. Oh, we had to join hands with students and others behind jail bars singing it, but we still decided to sing it. We shall overcome. Don't worry about us. Before this victory is won, some of us will get thrown in jail some more, but we shall overcome. Don't worry about us before this victory is won. Some of us will lose jobs, but we shall overcome. Before the victory is won, some will be called bad names and dismissed as rabble-rousers and agitators, but we shall overcome. Before the victory is won, some will even have to face physical death. But if physical death is the price that some must pay to free our children from a permanent psychological death, then nothing shall be more redemptive. We shall overcome. We shall overcome, and I'll tell you why. We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. We shall overcome because Carlyle is right. No lie can live forever. We shall overcome because William Cullen Bryant is right. Truth crushed to earth will rise again. We shall overcome because James Russell Laurel is right. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways our future. Behind the dumb unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own. We shall overcome because the Bible is right. You shall reap what you sow. We shall overcome. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome. And with this faith, we will go out and adjourn the councils of despair and bring new light into the dark chambers of pessimism. We will be able to rise from the fatigue of despair to the buoyancy of hope. And this will be a great America. And this will be a greater world. And we will be the participants in making it so. And so as I leave this evening, I say, walk together, children. Don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome today. Oh, deep in my
This morning, I would like to use as a subject from which to preach the drum major instinct. The drum major instinct. And our text for the morning is taken from a very familiar passage of our Lord and Master. James and John came unto him saying, Master, we would that thou shouldest do for us whatsoever we shall desire. And he said unto them, What would ye that I should do for you? And they said unto him, Grant unto us that we may sit one on thy right hand, the other on the left hand of thy throne. And Jesus said unto them, Ye know not what ye ask. Can you drink of the cup that I drink of? And with the baptism that I am baptized, can ye be baptized? And they said unto him, We can. And he said unto them, Ye shall indeed drink of the cup that I drink of, and with the baptism that I am baptized, withal shall ye be baptized. But to sit on my right hand and on my left hand is not mine to give. It shall be given to those for whom it is prepared. And then he goes on towards the end of that passage to say, So shall it not be among you, that he who is great among you shall be your servant, and he who is chiefest shall be servant of all. The setting is clear. James and John are making a specific request of the Master. For they had dreamed, as most Hebrews dreamed, of a coming king of Israel who would establish his kingdom on Mount Zion and in righteousness rule the world. And they thought of Jesus as this kind of king, and they were saying, now when you set up your kingdom, we want to sit one on the right hand, the other on the left hand of your throne. Now the other disciples got mad with James and John, and we can understand why. But before we condemn them too quickly, let us look calmly and honestly at ourselves. And we will discover that we too have some of the same James and John qualities. We all want to be important, to surpass others, to achieve distinction. There is deep down within all of us a desire to be out front, a desire to be first, a desire to lead the parade. Now, you know, Sigmund Freud used to contend that sex was the dominant impulse, but Alfred Adler came with a new argument saying that this quest for recognition, this desire for distinction, is something that runs the whole gamut of life. You know, our first cry as a baby was a bid for attention. And all through childhood, we asked life to grant us first place. Our little bundle of ego. Now, you know, in adult life, we still have it, and we really never get by it. We like to do something good, and you know we like to be praised for it. Now, if you don't believe that, you just go on living life, and very soon you will discover that you like to be praised, even if you don't believe it, and even if you don't deserve it. And somehow this warm glow we feel when we are praised is something of the vitamin A to our egos. Nobody's unhappy about being praised. The only unhappy people about praise is when that praise is going too much towards somebody else. because of the real drum major instinct. But don't you know that a lot of the race problem grows out of the drum major instinct? A need that some people have to feel superior. A need that some people have to feel that they are first and to feel that their white skin ordained them to be first. No, not long ago, a man down in Mississippi said that God was a charter member of the White Citizens Council. And God being a charter member means that everybody who is in that has a kind of divinity, a kind of superiority. But think about what has happened in history as a result of the perverted use of the drum major instinct. It's led to some of the most tragic expressions of man's inhumanity to man. But not only does it go into the struggle between races, it goes into the struggle between nations. And I submit to you that what is wrong in the world today is that the nations of the world are caught up in a bitter and tragic contest for supremacy. Our nation must be first. Our nation must rule the world. I'm sad to say that the nation in which we live is the supreme culprit. God didn't call America to do what she's doing in the world now. God didn't call America to engage in senseless, unjust wars. We've committed more war crimes almost than any other nation. But we won't stop it because of our pride and our arrogance as a nation. The God that I worship has a way of even putting nations in their place. The God that I worship has a way of saying, as the God of the Old Testament used to say, don't play with me, Israel. Don't play with me, Babylon. Be still and know that I'm God. And if you don't stop your reckless course in this world, I'll rise up and break the backbone of your power. And that can happen to America. Every now and then I go back and read Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. And then I come back and look at America and I say to myself, the parallels are frightening. I'm sorely afraid that if we don't put an end to this, we aren't going to be here too many more years to talk about God or to talk about brotherhood or to talk about Jesus Christ. Because somebody's going to make the mistake through our senseless blundering of dropping a nuclear bomb, and then another one's going to drop, and don't let anybody fool you. They have bombs right now that can destroy a city as big as New York with everybody wiped away and every building. And we can do the same thing to them. And this is where we're drifting. And we're drifting there because the nations of the world are caught up in the drum major instinct. But let me rush on to my conclusion so we can see what Jesus was really saying. What is the answer that Jesus gave these men? One would have thought that Jesus would have said, you're selfish. You're out of your place. Why would you raise such a question? That isn't what Jesus did. He did something altogether different. He said in substance, oh, I see. You want to be great? Wonderful. You want to be recognized? Wonderful. But recognize that he who is great among you shall be a servant. And he transformed the situation by giving a new norm of greatness. He said it's a good instinct if you use it right. It's a good instinct if you don't distort it and pervert it. Don't give it up. Keep feeling the need for being important. Keep feeling the need for being first. But I want you to be first in love. I want you to be first in moral excellence. I want you to be first in generosity. That is what I want you to do. And he transformed the situation. He who is great among you shall be a servant, and he who is chiefest shall be servant of all. And this morning, the thing that I like about that definition is by giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You know, you don't need a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your verb and your subject match to serve. You don't have to understand Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics to serve. You just need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. You know, every now and then, we all think about what is life's final common denominator, that thing we call death. And every now and then I think about my own death. I think about my own funeral. I wonder what it is that I would want said. But I'll leave the word with you this morning. If any of you are around here when I have to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Tell them not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. That's not important. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. On that day, I want somebody to be able to say that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want him to say that I tried to be right on the war question. I want him to say that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want him to say that I did try in my life to feed the hungry. I want him to say that I did try in my life to visit the sick and imprisoned. I want him to say that I tried to love and serve humanity. And that's all I want to say. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life. That's all I want to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word of song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian ought, if I can bring salvation to a world once wrought, if I can spread the message as the Master taught, then my living will not be in vain. Yes, Jesus, I want to be on your right or your left side, but not for any selfish reasons. I want to be on your right or your left side, not in terms of some political ambition or kingdom. I just want to be there in love and in justice and in truth and in commitment to others, so that we can make of this old world a new world. God bless you.
If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
or song, if I can show somebody who is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along.
Sing the song.
If I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody who is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody who is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. No, no, my living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. No, if I can help somebody who is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain.
I know I don't have to ask this at this point because I know y'all feel us because we feel you. And Charles and I have been doing this show 5 or 6 years, and we've taken it all over the country. And because of our reputations, the show was booked before we ever finished writing it. And we opened the tour in Boston, where King went to school. And in all these years I've been traveling with this good brother, you get a chance to see people for who they really are sometimes. When all the pretense is down and all the pretending is over and they just get to be. And Charles grew up in Nashville, and running around in the fields and the woods, very different from my upbringing. But while he was there, he could hear the spirit of his ancestors nipping at his heels and whispering in his ear, telling him, teaching him, reminding him of who and whose he really was. And when it was time for him to leave this small town in the country and go to the big city and the bright lights of New York, he answered the call. He was ready because he was supported by all of those who came before him, even the ones that he could not see.
That's right.
And he knew that there was one great gift that he was given. It wasn't just his talent, it was grace. And he knew that that was a secret that was no longer a secret. So when we tour, and I've worked with all kinds of folks. I've been doing this work for 30 years. I have never worked with anybody with as much integrity and true to his craft. And even when we going through stuff, he's gone through some stuff, I've gone through some stuff, we show up fully for whoever is here. So do me a favor and just thank the good brother, Charles Holt.
Thank you. Well, Gerald, that's hard to follow. I've had an opportunity to grace the stages with some wonderful, wonderful actors and actresses. Gerald is a consummate performer. And what you hear coming through him, he lives that. I don't think he could do King like he does without having to live that. I know that we get things to come and channel through us, but what comes through us has to come to us first. Gerald was born and raised in Compton, and I think it was at the age of 16, saw his best friend murdered in his front yard. And so as an extension of him being part of the juvenile system, Gerald said, I want to be a part of someone else's life so that I can teach them a little different way of moving through. So he started drumming, started going to high schools, middle schools, senior citizen homes. And so when we talk about Gerald, we have to talk about the entire body of work, because it's not just King. It had to start somewhere, and perhaps it was that thing that King calls grace, the amazing grace. And it's given to all of us. It's just whether or not we say yes to it or not. And so we both said yes, and we continue to say yes. And I do salute Gerald Rivers for continuing this work, because nevermore shall we hear these words that were spoken through the prophet, Dr. Martin Luther King, because today we need to hear these words. We need to walk by these words, and we need to allow these words to move to, in, and through us and as us. So thank you, Gerald, and salute him with me. Thank you, Gerald.
Here's what we really want to say. We don't think of this as a show. We think of it as an experience that we hope that you are having with us. My hope is often that one person leaves the room a little uplifted, a little better, a little more willing to do something outside of themselves for someone else. My request is that you let that one person be you. We have all been given this amazing gift of grace. And every person in this room can look around your lives, you can look around your homes, your neighborhoods, your jobs, and look at somebody else and say, but by the grace of God, there go I. So our question, our challenge, our charge is, what are you going to do for grace? What are you going to do for love? What are you going to do for God? What are you going to do for somebody else other than yourself, without any expectation of energy exchange? And with that in mind, just remember we've all been given this incredible gift of grace, and it is nothing short of amazing. Amazing grace.
Now, as we close, I want to sing Amazing Grace, but I want to sing it how I heard it first, without too much accompaniment, just the raw version. Amazing, Sing Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Once was blind, but now I see. And for my grandmother and all the ancestors through many dangerous toils. Ooh, toils and snares. I have I've already come. It was grace. Oh, it was grace, 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 grace alone that brought me safe thus far, and grace will me. Oh,
New opportunities have opened within the last few years, and this will be even greater all over the United States and all over the world, doors have been opened that have been closed to the Negro in the past. The great challenge that we face is to be ready to enter these doors when they open. Ralph Waldo Emerson said in a lecture back in 1871 that if a man can write a better book or preach a better sermon or make a better mousetrap than his neighbor, even if he builds his house in the woods, the world will make a beaten path to his door. This will become increasingly true. That means we're going to have to work hard. We're going to have to burn the midnight oil sometimes. We're going to have to take advantage of new opportunities, and we must set out to do our life's work so well that nobody could do it better. We must seek to do a good job, but we must not seek merely to do a good Negro job. If you're setting out to be merely a good Negro doctor, a good Negro lawyer, a good Negro preacher, a good Negro teacher, a good Negro skilled laborer, a good Negro barber, a good Negro beautician, you've already flunked your matriculation exam for entrance into the University of Integration. We must get ready. We must set out to do a good job and to do that job so well that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it better. As I've said so often, if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, then go on out and sweep streets like Michelangelo carved marble. Sweep streets like Raphael painted pictures. Sweep streets like Beethoven composed music and like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the host of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. This is it. It can't be a pine on the top of the hill. Then be a shrub in the valley, but be the best little shrub on the side of the reel. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. You just be the best of whatever you are. Thank you.
Thank you.